Hi, this is Trish Rayburn with Blissworks, telling the story, the history of Blissworks. So we had been open for 1 year and we had to move. Disagreeable relationships. It wasn't a good vibe for the yoga. So I looked for another space, which we found in the Barrows Building up on the second floor. And it was so much smaller. The studio space was probably a third of what we had in the first space, but it had a massage therapy room and a reception area room that we didn't have in our first space. So I had started doing Thai massage, and it was great for me to have that extra space. And we had an acupuncturist also working through Blissworks a few days a week as well back then. So she rented the room from me. But I had a beautiful bamboo floor put in. And up on the second floor, there were huge windows, giant picture windows, big and beautiful. And they took up the entire wall of the studio facing out. But those windows, as beautiful as they were, and people commented on how they liked walking by and seeing people practice up in the window at night. And so that was fun. But they were cold. Actually, the entire studio space was cold. Because we moved in March, we were there for a year and it was cold. And then by the second year, it got even colder. So it was hot air heat or forced air heat. I forgot what it was called, but it was at the top of, all the vents were up at the top of the room. So if you put your arms overhead, like in doing a sun breath, you could feel the heat at the top of the room, but the rest of the room was freezing. And so freezing that people started wearing their parka jackets into yoga class. And one of my teachers said, "We have to move." Of course, I didn't want to move because we had just moved. And it's a big deal moving, and quite an expense as well. And hard to find a place to move to. But, grumbling and dragging my feet, I decided to make a few phone calls to look for another space. And I had to get out of that lease, which was actually extremely costly because the landlord didn't want to give me any kind of break. So which she did give me some break, but I had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get out of there. But what that happened is that we got into the deluxe Blissworks space. So stay tuned for the next video on the history of Blissworks.